We're currently tennis in an English garden. This would make us tennis in a parkland setting. I mean, how special will that be for people coming to watch and enjoy the tennis?
I'm going to go out on a limb with the men's, and I'm going to go for
It's suddenly become a serve bot along with all the other stuff, so it's very exciting times.
We use gas for heating hot water and cooking, and electricity to power the grounds.
From the great tool of AI that apparently it uses about 648 calories to do a tennis match. That's kind of a hamburger is 648 calories. So what it means in terms of gas is it's 7.1 million matches, so the likes of Federer and Djokovic have to play a lot longer than into their 40s. So to start the podcast today, we've got 4 times Wimbledon semi-finalist, former world number 4, British number 1, and the man they named Henman Hill after. Please let's hear the introduction to this podcast, Tim Henman. Amazing podcast on sustainability with the All England Club. We've got one of its board members here and one of the great legends. Who are you?
I'm Tim Henman. Thank you for having me. I'm here for my foundation event today, so more tennis.
Fantastic. The foundation is brilliant. The podcast loves supporting it. But our audience in 67 countries, Tim, really want to know who's going to win the women's and the men's this year.
I think this year there might be a new winner of the women's. I think Aryna Sabalenka, she had a tough loss in the final of Roland Garros. I think the way she's playing, I think she might take a Wimbledon title.
And in the men's?
I'm going to go out on a limb with the men's, and I'm going to go for this young Spaniard. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Carlos Alcaraz. I think he's going to be pretty tough to beat.
He looked very dangerous on the grass last week at Queen's, and he's suddenly become a serve bot along with all the other stuff. So it's very exciting times. Can you just say what the foundation would like to sort of achieve with the fundraising?
Yeah, so my foundation, in a nutshell, we provide sporting and educational opportunities for disadvantaged young people, and we're so grateful for all the support we have, and we're looking forward to having a good day today.
Tim, have an amazing day, serve lots of aces, raise lots of pounds, and have a great time.
Thank you very much.
We're delighted to announce on Wolfe Power Club we'll be partnering in November this year, and there'll be a big build-up from now onwards with the Spectator. We're going to be having the Energy Summit that ends all debates in 2025 at the end of November to discuss the biggest issues that have occurred in 25, and we can't wait to join forces. More will be coming soon about how you buy tickets and also how you can potentially be a sponsor for the event. It's competition time. All you have to do is, if you're not doing it already, is follow us on LinkedIn or enter your email into our newsletter on our website. Now, once you've done that, you will be entered into a draw on Monday the 14th of July, and you have the opportunity to either win a Novak Djokovic book or a Rafa Nadal book. Enjoy this tennis competition and enjoy this special tennis episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wolfe Power Club. It is game, set, match for the biggest tennis tournament of the year. Not only is the podcast based in SW19, but also the world's most famous tennis tournament, Wimbledon. And for those who might not know in our 67 countries listening, the people who actually host it is the All England Lawn Tennis Club. And today we have Hattie Park, who's the Sustainability Officer of the Championships, telling us how we power the world's biggest tennis tournament and the whole year at the club to bring all the joys that we'll see over the next 2 weeks. Hattie, how are you doing today? And if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about your role.
Oh, hi, Alex. Well, it's great to be here. I am fine. We are 1 week away from the championships and we're all really excited. The grounds are just looking gorgeous. The grass is smelling delicious as well. And yes, so I'm the sustainability manager here at Wimbledon, and my job is to kind of provide a framework for us all to work to with the ultimate goal that we try and have a positive impact on the environment. And that involves focusing on all sorts of different things like emissions, being more efficient with resources. Really important for us is a focus on nature as well, and then using our influence to inspire wider action. So I know today we're going to talk about the energy and the emissions side of it, but there's a lot to it, and it's something that's really important to us here at Wimbledon.
And you're not just a normal tennis club. So just to give our listeners some figures to understand what sort of challenges that Hattie and the team down the road face. So on a typical year, well over 525,000 people come to the championships during the 2 weeks. And then there's visitors throughout the years because there's various activities from charity, community events going on there, as well as a tennis club running throughout the year. Last year on BBC, they had over 50.2 million streams. It makes me feel that I need to achieve a bit more on the podcast with our 250,000 a week. So I need to catch up, you guys. There was 133 million viewers on TV worldwide, and also that you ultimately have probably, and it was hard to get an exact definition, but bearing in mind in each draw there's 128 players and qualifiers that also run at the All England sites. There's something north of 200 nations represented in some shape or form, which you just realised the enormity of what's happening. But it's also my local tennis club, which is a nice balance for the Wolfe Power Club. So I guess, Hattie, all of that activity in a year, how much energy does the All England Tennis Club actually use to actually power this such wonderful event?
Well, I'm very impressed by your stats as well. You know more about Wimbledon than I do. So in terms of our energy use, we use gas for heating, hot water and cooking, and electricity to power the grounds. I actually do our emissions reporting, so I have to get our total in kilowatt hours for the end of each year, and we're also reviewing it monthly as well, I suppose. But it's about gas use in terms of kilowatt hours. It's about 9.5 million kilowatt hours of gas that we use year round. And again, as I said, heating, hot water and cooking. And then electricity is about 14.5 million kilowatt hours of electricity. And it's good that you made the point that we're an active venue year round as well. So that's the total for the year.
Now, I'm happy for viewers to challenge the figures I'm about to review here, but I understand from the great tool of AI that apparently it uses about 648 calories to do a tennis match at the higher end of use. And I've used the higher end because we could be going 5 sets today. Then we convert that into kilowatt hours, or if you want guys to convert it slightly easier into food, that's kind of a hamburger is 648 calories, not a really bad hamburger, kind of sort of average hamburger, but that means that in your tennis match you burn the equivalent of 0.75 kilowatts per hour. So what it means in terms of gas is it's 7.1 million matches, so the likes of Federer, Djokovic have to play a lot longer than into their 40s to do it. Just to give you a comparison of 7.1 million matches, and on the electricity side it'd be 10.9 million matches, so in total you're looking at 18 million matches of tennis. To put that in comparison, when Tatiana Maria won Queens last week, she was one of only the third professional ladies ever to go over 1,000 matches played in her professional career. So if you imagine that very few professional tennis players get to the magic 1,000 mark in matches, we're talking about 18 million matches of tennis running about each year to power Wimbledon. And Hattie, I know that one of your focuses has been reducing gas usage. Can you tell our listeners A, why, and B, how the club have gone about that?
Yeah, so, well, again, incredible stats. I'm quite exhausted thinking about all of those tennis matches being played. So we have a goal to bring emissions from our operations to net zero, along with many other organisations. And for us, really the key to that is eliminating use of gas. That we buy at Rego backed renewable electricity. So we, along with many other organisations, need to ultimately kind of electrify our site, so that we can then run ideally at optimal efficiency, powered entirely by renewable electricity. And so some of the steps that we're taking at the moment are around electrifying the kitchens. So we have about year round, we have 42. We have quite a lot of kitchens on site. We've got 42 year round kitchens on site. 30 of those are now running on electric equipment. And also we are replacing gas boilers with electric boilers. So the Orangi Pavilion, which is up at the northern end of the grounds, it's the players' practice pavilion. It's by their practice courts. It's also a year-round facility. We have a gym in there year-round. During the championships, it's got player restaurants, changing rooms. That's now an all-electric building. So we've replaced the gas boilers with electric, the kitchens, the cooking equipment with electric, and we've actually also got some solar thermal tubes on the roof there this year, which is providing a preheat into the hot water system. So, what we know is we need to eliminate gas if we want to have kind of zero carbon operations. There's a lot more to do, but what we're doing is, going around electrifying the kitchens, and where there are kind of gas systems which are a bit more standalone, we're electrifying those as well. So I'm really excited about that Orangi Pavilion this year.
And I think for our listeners who may have not been to the championships or just try to understand the size, is that when you have something that has kind of north of 60,000 people on site, and for the majority of people, they queue from early hours, they then get to the tennis, and they'll probably have their free meals there. Most people do. The workforce is, even in a COVID year, I heard a crazy stat, there was over 5,000 people working on site. And as a previous worker there, I can tell everyone you've got a lot of good kitchen opportunities, and there's food available right until close of play, which goes quite late some nights. And it's just that volume of meals that when Hattie is describing kitchens, I think the best way to describe it is imagine a cruise ship, but on a multiple of that, guys. So like if you think a cruise ship feeds about 2,000 people a day, this is feeding 30 times that. So when Hattie's talking about electrifying kitchens, it's probably some of the most meals, and also, with all the options you got at Wimbledon, it's everything from grab and go through to the full sit down experience.
Up to the Royal Box almost. So yeah, I mean, I think we're the biggest single catered event in Europe. So decarbonising our kitchens is not a sort of little thing. It still is meaningful. And one of the things that's been really good about doing that is actually the way the chefs have really embraced it. And I would say, several years ago, there might have been a bit more reluctance to adopt the electric cooking, but actually it's a much nicer environment in the kitchens when you've got electric than when you go into the kitchen, turn on all of the gas boilers. If you just think about the heat, if nothing else. So it's a nicer environment for the kitchens. And when I'm doing presentations, I use a picture of a happy chef smiling while cooking on his new induction cooker. And he said, "Don't take it away from us. They're pleased with its progress from their point of view."
Fantastic. Now, I can't go away from the other part, which is a bigger challenge than any other Grand Slam. So for those of people who are not expert tennis fans, Australia and US have hard courts, so except for filling in the old pothole, essentially you have no real long-term maintenance of the courts. France has the clay, but obviously, clay is swept and so on, but there's nothing you really have to grow with any of those three Grand Slams. But obviously Wimbledon is the last remaining Grand Slam that is grass. It's probably the most famous feature on it, but also what people might not know as well as the site where the championships is held, you also now have the sites at Rains Park, and you've got the site which was the former Bank of England site in Roehampton where qualifying happens. So what are some of the energy concerns with growing grass? I guess there must be machinery and equipment to get those most beautiful surfaces, and how have you challenged some of those energy challenges?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think, there's machinery and equipment. Actually, the lawnmowers that we use on the championships court on the main site, they're electric lawnmowers as well now, which is very good. And this isn't to do with the grass courts, but all of the handheld gardeners equipment, that's all electrified as well. In winter months, the main energy we want is from the sun, allowing the grass to grow. In the winter months, we do have some grow lights, in common with most sporting venues. This year we were piloting different LED lighting in the grow lights on a couple of the courts this year. So hopefully that will mean that the amount of electricity we need, as we replace those over time, we can reduce the amount of electricity that we need. And then it's energy of the human beings, mowing them and looking after the courts.
There's definitely, I gotta give it to the ground staff. Whereas us officiating staff have I would say we have quite an enjoyable time. I know the ground staff are there. There's one team that's there all year round, and then the team during the championships, whoa, they have to both start very early and end very late.
Long days. Long days, but so dedicated.
We were discussing that you've been able to switch to HVO, and I was delighted to hear that as someone who, over industry, not only the first truck stop of HVO I helped bring to the country, but the Sir David Attenborough Arctic Survey ship. I was delighted to be part of filling that with HVO. And next week we actually have Bosch on talking about their European tour of HVO. So it's great to see that the championships have been using HVO.
Yeah, it's been quite an easy switch, to be honest, just to go to HVO rather than, I remember in the early days of doing my carbon reporting, and I was reporting on diesel. I'm now reporting with the emission factor from HVO, and obviously it's a infinite, it's just tiny compared to the carbon associated with diesel. So and it's been quite easy to do that, and the equipment seems to work.
Can you just tell us a bit more about the carbon reporting and essentially why is it a big part of your job? Obviously, like various things now coming in society, but why is it a big, important part of the sustainability officer's job at Wimbledon to look at the carbon?
I seem to have been doing carbon reporting for about 15 years, and I can't believe I'm still doing it. And my previous job was at the BBC, and I did the emissions reporting there as well. I actually gained some strange pleasure from getting our kilowatt hours using the conversion factors to find the equivalent carbon. And I think from my point of view as sustainability manager, it's really important to understand the relative contributions of our different energy sources in carbon terms. So I'm quite glad to do it. We have to do it because there's something called the Streamlined Energy and Carbon Reporting Requirement. Very boring name, but that applies to organisations over a certain size. And you have to include your carbon emissions in your consolidated financial statements. So that's a mandatory requirement for us anyway. And also we voluntarily report the information, so we include it on our website. And we're also a signatory to something called the UN Sport for Climate Action Framework, which is under the UNFCCC, and lots of different sports organisations are signatories to that. We report our emissions into that body as well. So I think it's about being transparent about what your impacts are. I think it's about understanding, as I said, the relative contribution in emissions terms. So for us, we buy renewable electricity, so I can report that at zero. But were we not reporting the grid average, that's our biggest component of our operational footprint. Then it's gas. Actually, fuel is it's a teeny proportion of it. So it's helpful because then you know what to prioritise your efforts on.
And I guess that set you up nicely in your department. Just talking on the financial reports, if people want to
Mm.
look, it's a really decent read. The Women Report is on the website. We'll put a link below. But
I'll tell our finance team.
it is a business that has massive swings in projects. So, like, I was reading that in the last year, over 25 million went into capital expenditure. The year before, 39 million. So the site is always changing. And as someone who lives in the neighbourhood, I can certainly vouch for that. Over the years, we've seen developments, refinements, everything that's gone on from capacity of stadiums to different technology in stadiums to different access ways. And obviously, I know this amount of time in the last 18 months. Planning approval was given by Merton to potentially expand the facility invested in the golf course. I think that everyone can read all of the national press on that. There's obviously been a lot of debate on that because any project in a community of that size does have that debate. But what approach did you go in as sustainability officer? Because I can imagine a project like that that's in the centre of the community obviously is going to get feedback every direction. I was just interested in what the approach was on that.
Well, it was brilliant to be able to be involved in that project from the beginning. And the project always had two aims as a whole. One is to bring the qualifying event to the main site, but the other was also to provide meaningful benefits to the community. So a third, the land was a golf course. A third of that land, or thereabouts a third, will be a new publicly accessible park for anyone to enjoy year round. From an environmental sustainability point of view, as we were sort of beginning to plan that project, we had at Wimbledon, we'd kind of launched our environment positive aim. And so we knew we were focusing on emissions, resource efficiency, biodiversity, and how we can use our influence. And so it was about bringing those principles into the project. So and then there are planning requirements as well that we need to meet. So obviously for energy, you have to do the be lean, be green, be seen methodology, which is if you're about essentially designing things to be as efficient as they possibly can be. So any of the buildings on the site, we design first to be no gas, by the way, so all powered with electricity, and designed to be as efficient as possible. Also then really designing to ensure that nature is a beneficiary of the project as well. So, there'll be small satellite buildings around the site where we will just store maintenance equipment or something year round. They'll all have green roofs. They'll be part of the landscape. It has been a really nice project to be part of, and I really hope that we can get on with it and deliver it. The other thing that's important from my point of view on that project is ground source heat pumps are part of that plan, and from the electrically generated heat there, we will connect to the infrastructure in number one court, which will enable us to kind of decarbonize, degas number one court by connecting it to the heat generated over on the golf course land.
That's fantastic to hear, because one of our previous guests, Jan Rosenau, was actually saying, the
Well,
biggest.
I follow him on X.
Well, we'll have to get you and Jan for a coffee now that Oxford
You can explain a
SW19.
whole load of stuff to me. I get a masterclass.
But his passionate thing is that almost the building stock in Britain, if you actually just slightly improve by percentage points, it would actually save energy consumption way more than any conversion to other sources, and is that making it efficient. And I think certainly that's what I've always seen, is that a focus from the championships, and rightly so. As a local resident, I can't get away from the debate. And I think what's interesting is I think both sides have actually raised standards for everyone all round, because I don't think there's ever been a project probably in London's lifetime that's had so much environmental scrutiny. So it must have been both fascinating, but also making sure expert opinion and stuff, you really got into the nooks and crannies and made sure
Definitely.
that everything had an audit trail. Like,
Well, it is about acting with integrity and just making sure that the claims that we're making in terms of the biodiversity gains, for example, are going to be met. Yeah, so hopefully we can get going with it and deliver something really world class. And I think that's the important thing about why we want to do this for the championships. We want to maintain the championships at this pinnacle position, and having this kind of tennis in a park. We're currently tennis in an English garden. This would make us tennis in a parkland setting. I mean, how special will that be for people coming to watch and enjoy the tennis?
I certainly know that my favorite area, after day on court, is nothing better than your hanging garden section you guys put in about 7 or 8 years ago, because it really is like the nice place with the
Do you mean
flowers
up
and
at the
stuff.
top of the hill where there's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a great place to chill
Well, a
out and
bit of
get your
shade
thoughts.
as well is nice. And there's gorgeous oak tree up there as well. It's lovely.
Now, obviously, this year probably has focused people's a lot of attention on energy security. We obviously had Heathrow go down for the best part of 24 hours. And then one of the biggest tennis tournaments in the world that's not a Grand Slam, but is a 1,000-pointer, Madrid, was a victim of the Madrid and Spain and Portugal blackout. And I appreciate your area is more sustainability, but on energy security, Hattie, what do you think Wimbledon looks to do? Because I appreciate anything, whether it's from a maintenance side or something
Yeah.
slightly more sinister, but ultimately I think Wimbledon has for well over a century delivered a fantastic tournament. I think it was one of the first events ever on colour TV, and therefore the structures in place have worked. I was just wondering, from a sort of energy security point of view, what's looked
Yeah.
into by the championship there.
Well, I mean, again, this is a bit away from my area of expertise, Alex, but I think if the whole nation goes down, so do we. But what we do have here is we have, I think, about 8 different feeds of electricity coming into the grounds, and we have the ability to switch from one feed to another. So we have much more built-in resilience, and we have electricity coming from, I believe, from different substations. So if there was a problem at one, we would still have the power to keep things going, and we've got enough excess capacity. So, and we're upgrading our transformers as well, so hopefully we're really thinking about how we can be as resilient as possible. I think, an entire nation going down is probably not something we can counter, but as far as we're looking after our own site and having multiple options for different sources of electricity into the main site, we're pretty well set for that.
And then I'm also interested because obviously you guys have a lot of partners to deliver the championship, and obviously, as someone who loves tennis but also loves cars, since I've been an 8-year-old tending, I'm always excited when you start seeing the championship cars. But I understand your partner JLR has also gone on this sustainability journey, because I've seen a big change in the fleet over the years, and certainly I'm just interested how JLR changed the vehicles that they used to. And for those who internationally don't know, because of both efficiency, security risks, and so on, the players and senior people involved in the championship have access to a Wimbledon fleet throughout the championships. And just understand what JLR did to change their footprint
It's
there.
very nice. Well, if I had my way as sustainability manager, I'd obviously have everyone on bicycles or in teeny little electric G-Whiz. But the fact is, they do travel around in slightly more luxury motor cars. Range Rover is the vehicle that we use mostly, and over half the fleet this year is plug-in electric hybrids. So that's an improvement each year. And we've actually got charging infrastructure in our indoor tennis centre in the underground car park there, so we can keep those vehicles topped up. So if we can, mostly they'll drive on electric, which is good. But I think it's in a way it's up to me to be the annoying person, sort of poking them, saying, well, we want them all to be. I want all of our vehicles to be fully electric. They're not ready for that quite yet, but what we are doing is providing as many as we can that are in that plug-in electric hybrid category.
Fantastic. Now it's been a great interview. We ask some of our quick fire questions, and obviously we have politicians and CEOs of energy companies. So I'm going to more with a hat as someone who looks after sustainability in a big sports institute that the All England is. So my first question is, what would you like to see the government do in the next 12 months to say potentially either help the energy sector or help sustainability within sport, putting on at a professional level like you guys do?
So I think I would be coming at this more from sport, and I think it's really about, sport it's about adaptation and resilience now. I think sport is being impacted, whether you have got athletes, competing in extreme heat, or at a grassroots level, you can't get out onto your local pitch because it's flooded again. So I would like, I suppose this probably isn't from the point of view of Wimbledon. This is more of a personal feeling, but I'd like more support for grassroots sports clubs for people to be able to keep being active and getting out and playing amateur sport or professional sport. So I think it's a focus on adaptation. Don't stop on the mission, the mission zero for 2030. That's essential as well. Because actually, going back to my carbon reporting, I've loved how the emission factor for electricity has come down and down and down and down and down every year through the fact that we're decarbonising the grid. So the team doing that, keep going. But some sort of support for grassroots sports so people can keep being active.
Fantastic. Next question is for the actual energy companies themselves. Obviously, we've talked today how you guys are a substantial consumer. What would you like energy companies to do in the next 12 months? And trust me, a lot of the directors listen to this, so it'll be good. So how can they improve?
Well, so keep rolling out on renewable generation, then don't lose the faith on that. Just keep it coming more and more. We need it, we want it. I don't think we don't want to be pumping more warming gases into the atmosphere. We want clean, renewable power.
Now, normally we ask to sort of finish is how can consumers of energy, but I'm interested, as say, you're days away from receiving a wonderful 525,000 plus people. For them to be sustainable on their visit to Wimbledon this year, what would be some of the asks that you'd like them to do in terms of making their journey sustainable as possible, so that we can have more tennis events in the future and more people coming? What could they do on a practical level with their visit to Wimbledon in the next 2 weeks?
That's a brilliant question. Thank you for asking me that, Alex. We have this thing called be an environment positive champion. So we want to be, our aim is to have a positive impact on the environment. We want our guests to be environment positive champions as well. You can think about how you travel to the grounds. So we have an online journey planner, which if you put your start and end point in, it will show you the more sustainable route that you can do it. So think about how you travel. When you come here, think about what you eat. We show the carbon weightings of all of the foods that we serve at the championships on a scale of A, very low carbon, to E, very high. That's not about guilting you into but it's about providing you with hopefully what's helpful information so you can make informed choices. Also helps our chefs when they're planning recipes. So think about how you get here, think about what you're eating. And I think also one of the lovely things at Wimbledon is around this English garden emphasis. And so, I don't know whether you'll think this is really cheesy, but we want to help people forge a sort of greater connection with nature when they come to the grounds, enjoy the grounds. And then hopefully by getting this connection, it's something you want to protect. And I think there's a really natural way in to climate through nature.
Fantastic. Hattie, I would love to thank you and the All England Club for your time today. I appreciate it's the busiest time of year, so to fit us in it is great. Appreciate it. As I say, the Wolfe Power Club does support one of your board members' charities, Tim Henman's foundation, but I also know the Wimbledon Foundation does a lot of work with Tim's foundation and the local community. And I just my last thing is, if people are interested in this side, how do they get access to the report? We'll try and put the link, but I understand yearly that you produce these figures so that anyone around the world can have a look at what you guys are up to.
Well, if you go to wimbledon.com/sustainability, there's lots of information. There's some lovely little videos on there as well and things. So there's all of the information there. And yes, my dreaded carbon reporting goes up there too.
Hattie and the club, I'd like to thank you all for your time today. It was brilliant to understand how you power the greatest tennis tournament in the world that's now in the English Garden.
Thank you very much, Alex.